Hi everyone, today we'll be talking about comparing rational numbers. First we're going to look at how we can convert a fraction to a decimal. So first, to change a fraction to a decimal, we have to divide the numerator by the denominator. So here we have this fraction 2/5. 2 is my numerator, 5 is my denominator. If we remember our long division, we can set this problem up like this. So we have 2 divided by 5. So I want to see how many times can 5 go into 2. Well, it can't. So what I need to do is add on a 0.0. I know that doesn't quite line up. Did the best I could there. So now let's do some division. How many times can 5 go into 20? Well, it can go in 4 times. So actually first we're going to say it goes into the 2 0 times. And now we're going to bring that decimal point up, and then we're going to put in that 4. So 5 goes into 2 0 times, the decimal point comes up, and now 5 goes into 20 4 times. Alright, so now we can do this. The next thing we're going to do is say, okay, what's 4 times 5? It is 20. So we're going to ignore that decimal point for the purpose of this part of the division. Whoops. Over, and then remember we have to then subtract. So we're going to subtract 20 from 20. Again, we're ignoring that decimal point there. Draw a line underneath, and then 20 minus 20 gives us 0. That means we're done. Okay, we've taken it all the way to the end. So this is a little review of your long division. So 5 goes into 20 4 times, but since it's 2.0, we actually end up with 0.4. Alright, so that's doing it the long division way without a calculator. Or we can do this with a calculator. And we can put into our calculator 2 divided by 5. So I come over here, and I can type 2 divided by 5, and that gives me 0.4. Okay. Alright, so now I want you to go ahead and I want you to do the next 2 examples on your own, whether you do long division or you use a calculator. Go ahead and pause the video now. Okay, welcome back, and let's look at converting now a fraction to a percent. So to change a fraction to a percent, we have to move the decimal 2 times to the right. Well, before we can do that, we have to convert our fraction into a decimal. Okay? Then we turn the decimal into the percent. So we're going to write this fraction here as a percent. So we've already done 2/5. So we already know that 2/5 is 0.4. And we're going to take that 0.4, or that decimal point, we're going to move it over 1, 2. Fill in that empty spot with a 0. We're essentially multiplying 0.4 times 100. Okay. So now that we've done that, we now have 40%. So 2/5 is the same as 40%. Since this is our answer, let's put a circle around it. It's always important to circle our answers. There we go. Alright, so now I want you to do these 2 here. Turn your fractions into percents. First you're going to have to turn them into decimals, and then turn them to percents. Go ahead and pause the video now. Okay. Let's go to the next page. Alright, well, now we want to look at how do we change a decimal to a fraction. So, when you want to make that conversion, you need to read it, then write it the way that you've read it. Always simplify. So write the following decimal as a fraction. Well, to do that, we need to know some of our place values. Alright, so let's remember. We have decimal place values of tenths, hundredths, thousandths. It keeps going, but I'm going to stop there. Okay, so let's take a look at tenths. 0.5, that says 5 tenths. It's in the first decimal place, so it's tenths, so 5 tenths. So we would write that as 5 over 10, 5 tenths. Okay, for hundredths, 2 decimal places. So we would read that as 15 hundredths. That 5 is in the hundredths place, so it's 15 hundredths. So we would write as 15 over 100. Thousandths, I've got 115 thousandths. That 5 is in the thousandths place, so 115 thousandths. So I would write it like that. All right, so now let's come down to this one. We look at what place that 4 is in. It's in the tenths, so that would be 4 tenths. Now remember, we need to simplify, so don't forget to simplify. So we're going to come up here, I'm going to type in that new answer. So 4 over 10 is going to simplify to what? And then what can we divide both 4 and 10 by? And we can divide them both by 2. So we can type in, let's see. So 2/5 becomes my answer. So 4 tenths simplifies to 2/5. And I'm going to circle my answer. Okay. All right. Now, I want you guys to try these two on your own. Go ahead and pause the video now. Okay, welcome back. All right, well, we're kind of bouncing back to changing a decimal to a percent. We've already had to do that when we changed the fraction to a percent. So to change a decimal to a percent, we've already talked about this. We move the decimal 2 times to the right. So again, we've already done this once. Okay, so remember, we're going to take our decimal point and we move it over 2 times, and that gives us 40%. And we've actually already done that in the previous page when we converted the fraction to a percent. All right, so now I want you guys to try these two on your own. Go ahead and pause the video now. Okay, let's try converting percents to fractions. To change a percent to a fraction, we're going to write it over 100. All percents are out of 100. So we just write that percentage over 100, and then we simplify. Okay? So if we want to write 40%, we're going to write 40 over 100. And then we simplify. I can divide them both by 20. And that gives me the fraction 2/5. Okay, go ahead and try the next two on your own. Okay, let's go to the next page. All right, let's turn a percent to a decimal. So to change a percent to a decimal, we're going to replace the percent sign with the decimal and then move the decimal 2 times to the left. Or you can take that number and you can divide it by 100. So if we want to write the following fraction as a, that should not say fraction, that should say, let's just redo that. That should say write the following percent as a decimal. All right, sorry about that typo there. Okay, so we have 40%. So we're going to first replace the percent sign with the decimal, and then we're going to move that decimal point 2 times to the left, and it lands in front of the 4. So now I happen to just always put a 0 in front of my decimal point if there's no other numbers there. So I get 0.40. All right, I want you guys to try these two on your own. Pause the video now. Okay, let's come down here and let's work on completing this chart. I'm going to do the first couple with you, and then then you'll do the rest on your own. All right, so 1/2, if I were to convert that to a decimal, remember I can go to my calculator and I can do 1 divided by 2, 0.5. Right? And then as a percent, I can take my decimal point and move it over 2 times, so I get 50%. All right, now let's take a look at when we have repeating decimals like this. They're a little harder to convert. So when we have a repeating decimal, first I'm going to convert that to a percent. So we said that, well, actually, it doesn't really matter which one we do first. I'm going to do to a fraction first, I mean. That second 3 is in the hundredths place. So normally if we didn't have that bar over it, we'd say 33 over 100. But because it's repeating, we actually take it down a number. So we're actually going to say, instead of 33 over 100, we're going to say 33 over 99. So that's the case that we always do when it is a repeating decimal. So whatever place it's in, we just subtract 1. So if it's in the tenths place, if it's 3 repeating, so it would be 3/10 repeating, and then instead of doing 3 over 10, we do 3 over 9. All right, so now we can simplify 3 over 99, or 33 over 99, and we would get 1/3. All right, now if I want to convert this to a percent, I'm going to take my decimal point, I'm going to move it over to the right 2 times. Now since it's repeating, that means that there's actually still more 3's that keep going. So I'm going to show that here. I'm going to put in another 3 and put the bar over that. So it's 33.3 repeating percent, because technically the 3's keep going and going forever. All right, on this one, they converted this percent, or they wrote this percent as a fraction instead of as a decimal like I did up here. And it doesn't matter which way you do it, but let's take this and let's make this into an improper fraction first so that we can turn that into a decimal. All right, so we get 66 2/3. So to convert this into an improper fraction, I have to do 3 times 66. So, oops, I'm going to pull up my calculator. So I'm going to do, let's get out of here, 3 times 66, and then I'm going to add 2. So we do the denominator times the whole number plus the numerator, plus 2. Gives me 200. So this has a value of 200 over 3. All right, so now if I were to do that division, 200 over 3, 200 over 3 gives me 66.6 repeating. Okay? So that's what I have next. So I could even put that in. 66.6, put my percent sign on it, and I'm going to put a little bar over the top to show that it's repeating. Okay, that's not looking very straight. Let's see if I can straighten that out. Okay, so now that I've done that, now I can convert this decimal, or this percent, to a decimal. So I'm going to take my decimal point and I'm going to move it left 2 times. So we do that and we get 0.66 repeating. Again, remember up here I added that extra 3 in because the 3's just keep going. I just wanted to only write 2 decimal places. You could have 0.666 and then have the bar over that last 6. Okay? It doesn't matter. Since it's repeating, it's just going to be 6's all the way. Now, just like we did this one up here, That 6 is in the hundredths place, but it's repeating. So we actually take it down a number and we put it over 99. 66 over 99 gives us 2/3. Okay? So the thirds are generally the hardest ones. The rest of them should be pretty straightforward and not give you any repeating decimals. So that's why I want to make sure I did the thirds with you. The rest of them should give you what we call terminating decimals and should be pretty easy like the 1/2 was. All right, I want you to pause the video now and see if you can fill in the rest of this chart. Okay, let's take a look at example 8. We're going to compare the following numbers. So in order to do that, we need to convert them. We need them to be in the same format. And the easiest format to do is decimals. So remember to convert our percent to a decimal. We put our decimal point here, and then we move it left 2 times. So we get 0.45. All right, well, that kind of looks like it would be the same as this one. Maybe we should put an equal sign. But remember, this is repeating. So that means that it keeps going. So if I were to extend that out, we then see that this one is actually bigger than 45%. All right, let's compare. Now I want you guys to try the next 2 on your own. Go ahead and pause the video now. Okay, let's take a look at our last example. All right, now we need to be able to figure out which one of these belongs here. All right, so we have 1/4 is greater than some number, and that number has to be greater than 1.45. So we're looking for a number that falls in between those 2 numbers. All right, so again, to do that, we need to convert. So 2 and 1/3. Well, 2, and then if I do 1/3, 1/3 we've already saw was 0.3 repeating. So that becomes 2.3 repeating. 0.15, well, that's already a decimal. I don't need to do anything there. 1/5, if I do 1 divided by 5, I get 0.2. And then 100%, if I were to convert that to a decimal, okay, I just move my decimal point left 2 times, and that gives me just 1. All right, so which one of those would fit in between? So it has to be greater than 1/4. All right, well, what's 1/4? That's right, that's 0.25. So it has to be between 0.25 and 1.45. Well, 2.3 repeating, that's bigger than 1.5. That'd be over here. So that's not going to work. 0.2, well, that's less than 0.25. That's going to be down here. 0.15, that's also less than 0.25. So that's going to be down here. So the only one left would be that 1, which makes 100% our answer. Okay. All right. That's it for our notes. I want you to go ahead, you can stop the video and then complete the last try on your own. I'll see you in class.